Well, good morning once again. If you are tuning in via YouTube, you will know that this is the second live stream this morning. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to do my usual 8:30 slot due to being caught on the A1. But I am here now in Newcastle, outside the Moot Hall, with Mark STEELE. Mark, this journey for me coming up to Newcastle is becoming rather too much of a regular habit. But I have to say that each time either Gateshead Council, and each of the court cases really has been manipulated by Gateshead Council, but each time they bring you to court, it's a massive opportunity to raise wider awareness.
It's most certainly a massive opportunity for people to understand the existential threat that 5G poses to the whole country, not only from a health perspective, but has recently been reported in the mainstream press. The head of MI6 has got serious concerns about 5G. We've got the Minister for the Ministry of Defence who also have serious concerns about 5G as a threat to national security.
And indeed Donald Trump has made the same observations in the US.
Donald Trump said exactly the same, and obviously there's been a few very interesting arrests of Chinese people working for one of the larger Chinese technology companies who are part of the Chinese military complex, and that the implication of the 5G technology most certainly leads a path back to China. So basically we'll have technology. Most of this spine technology is mainly Chinese, manufactured in Chinese factories. However, some of the chipsets and some of the capability, obviously we don't want to get too conspiratorial, but as everybody will understand, my background is weapon systems. So I understand head-up display, mitigating battlefield interrogation systems. So you'll understand that I'm extremely concerned, not only for the health effects, the detrimental health effects that have been well proven in the many thousands of published peer-reviewed scientific papers, but also the security issue that we have. This is an existential threat to this country, and once again Gateshead Council have taken it upon themselves to basically try and gag me after the Justice His Honour the Recorder Nolan QC actually stated in a court that I was at liberty to carry on my campaign, to actually carry on the campaign, and this was democracy in action. And once again, I've had police officers to my door to serve me papers to try and gag me in a vexatious action that's been taken against me to bring me back to this court to try and stop the democratic process. This is an attack on democracy. It's just an attack on the country, it's an attack on the democratic process. We have councillors who are supporting this, stating, you know, these people get voted in. It's unbelievable that they would want to actually attack the democratic process that pays their salaries. I mean, unbelievable. And we will see today, you know, what's going to happen.
But I mean, it's actually worse than this, isn't it? Because we have with us the Gateshead Council Constitution, which clearly, over 380 odd pages or whatever it is, clearly lays out the responsibilities of the officers and of the councillors. And what's happening here, and I know that you are of the opinion, and the evidence would suggest that Gateshead councillors and their officers are actually being gagged, and they are being told not to address this issue. One, because they are out of their depth from a technological standpoint, but two, if they do get into the debate, they know pretty well where it's going.
The continual fabrication that they don't have 5G in Gateshead. They most certainly do have 5G in Gateshead. From a technical perspective, it's 5G hardware all the way from China. So, you know, we know what it is. The Recorder Nolan QC stated in the court that Gateshead Council were to open up the democratic process. They have not contacted me. In fact, what they've done when I've contacted them is to actually bring this further action to stop me from contacting councillors. They are obliged under law to respond to constituents, councillors are continually misinforming the constituents and stating they don't have 5G. We've got the same old narrative, the fabricated press release, the forgery that was entered into the court, SC11, is an exhibit to try and hoodwink His Honour Recorder Nolan QC in the court case. That was shown to be a forgery, a fabrication. The evidence that came into the court was forgery and fabrication. A number of the witnesses, the council witnesses, actually perjured themselves.
Well, Sheena Ramsey, who is the chief executive of Gateshead Council, I mean, flagrantly lied in the court. And if she has a problem with me stating that, then she is more than welcome to initiate the appropriate legal proceedings to challenge that observation. But it was abundantly clear that she lied, and in fact, in a criminal court, then she would have been held in contempt.
Yes.
But Recorder Nolan exercised a degree of discretion, but she lied about what occurred in the council chamber when you gave a presentation to the council back in November 2017. She gave her evidence, and what she apparently didn't know was that the court was then going to be shown a video of your presentation to the council in November 17, which demonstrated quite clearly that the allegations being alleged against you by Sheena Ramsey, the chief executive of the council, were totally false.
False, absolutely false. And you know, as a chief executive of a council, to actually stand up in a court and to make a false witness statement, a signed false witness statement, because obviously it was documented not only verbally in a court, and she is still in position. I mean, it is absolutely astounding.
But let's take into account as well that Sheena Ramsey was previously chief executive of Knowsley Council in Liverpool, where she left under a cloud and walked away with £300,000 in a severance payment. She then went to Worcester Council, Worcester City Council, before coming here, where once again she left, well, I think, you know, say under a cloud, but that cloud was primarily related to the allegations of corruption against her in Knowsley. And in fact, a massive part of the payoff was apparently to keep her quiet so that she couldn't discuss the reasons for her effective departure from Knowsley. And this is a woman who is also a graduate of Common Purpose when she was working in HR, I believe, with Allied Breweries in Scotland. So she effectively ticks all the boxes as the Common Purpose trained sociopath who thinks nothing of lying whilst under oath in a court. And this is the chief executive of the council that is right on the front line, thanks to Mark here, in having to, well, justify, although not justifying, their 5G and LED street lighting rollout.
Yeah, the theme in the civil case, the theme from all of the evidence that was put into the court, and especially the witness statements and the testimony on the stand of all of the councillors, showed a conspiratorial theme to exaggerate, to fabricate, to forge, and to put information into that court that was absolutely incorrect. And once again, we are here being dragged into court today again, a vexatious attempt once again to gag me, even though the Recorder Nolan QC stated quite clearly that this 5G risk must be debated. He stated it in court. He told me to carry on my campaign, and what he stated in court was, Mr. Steele, I'm not going to gag you. He also stated this is democracy in action, and what we saw in that case was justice being served. But unfortunately, the council have decided they didn't like that result, so consequently we're back again at Mutall.
Well, and the likelihood is that what Gateshead Council are going to try to do is simply convince the judge today that there are sufficient grounds to hold a committal hearing, i.e. an attempt to jail you. They're not actually interested in whether they ultimately jail you or not, although that would be their preferred option.
Yeah.
But what they're more interested in is effectively preventing you from speaking out on this issue between today and whenever the hearing is scheduled for.
Yeah.
And this would, of course, be an absolute travesty. And you know, one of the reasons why it would, I think, seem logical to assume that there is a massive attempt to shut down debate here in Gateshead is because this doesn't just affect Gateshead. It effectively really is impacting across the whole country. There are so many cities engaged in what are euphemistically termed 5G tests, but they're not 5G tests. This is the rollout of the 5G infrastructure, and then when no one's looking, it will simply go live. And of course, you know, one of the first signs that 5G infrastructure is being put in place is the destruction of trees. And in fact, the culling of trees. In fact, in Newcastle, more trees have been culled than in Sheffield. But all eyes were on Sheffield.
Yeah.
But it was for the same reason here, and that was to provide an opportunity for 5G frequencies to penetrate through to the buildings, because we know that, I mean, the 5G frequencies can get through the walls of the buildings, but what they can't get through is organic material like leaves on trees, and particularly wet leaves on trees.
Leaves. Yeah, wet trees. I don't like wet trees, but they most certainly can look very, very far into the urban environment. In fact, the 868 can possibly look 15 to 20 kilometres in an urban environment. This is a piece of equipment to spy on you. That's what it is. It's in breach of all human rights. It's basically a battlefield interrogation system. That's how I was aware of it in the first instance, because the 868 was an MOD part of the spectrum, and it's for battlefield interrogation. So it's a battlefield interrogation piece of equipment outside of your home. Class 1 cancer causing radiation. It was already deemed a carcinogen in 2011 by the World Health Organization as a 2B. All of the recent published peer-reviewed research and some of the most in-depth Ramsini Institute, the National Toxicology Program, $24 million study has shown that this radiation is in fact a class 1. And obviously we'll see the epidemiological data, massive increases in cancer, massive increases in mental health issues. The same battlefield interrogation that's caused neurological disorders to troops where they're coming home and committing suicide is now rolled out, called 5G, on top of a streetlight, masquerading as a control management system. And it's about time that the people of this country woke up to the fact that your councils haven't got a clue. I'm not saying Gateshead Council knew there was a battlefield interrogation piece of equipment, but I have given them enough information now and enough scientific documentary evidence to show that there's a significant detrimental health effect to the constituents of Gateshead since its rollout. They have the evidence and they have a duty of care.
And also, Mark, it's the LED street lighting as well, not just the transmitter system. And in fact, I mean, probably one of the most significant academic studies on LED street lighting was a joint study between the University of Exeter and the Barcelona Centre for Global Health. And two separate studies in Spain showed that long-term exposure to LED street lighting massively increased the incidences of both prostate cancer for men and breast cancer for women, and primarily due to these two cancers being linked to hormonal deficiencies. And the blue light, of course, disrupts the circadian rhythm, which then impacts upon the hormonal balance of the body. So it's a double whammy.
It's a double whammy. Well, blue optical radiations are known carcinogen. And if you have street lighting that's been built without diffusers, that's an issue. Blue phosphor coated at 450, I'll get a little bit technical here, 450, 460 nanometers, it causes retinal cell death. So you can see the dark glasses. Everybody asks why I wear them. I wear them all the time because microwave radiation, believe us, it's ubiquitous and it can cause significant central nervous cancer issues. But blue light emission, so the 450, 460 nanometers, these are the street lights. This isn't the LED lighting in your screen, even though that is not risk-free. That's RGB LED. So you've got red, green and blue, and you get a balance in the light. We're talking about part of the spectrum here that is significantly energetic and is been shown in laboratory studies to destroy cellular retinal function and causes oxidative stress and causes cancer. Now, who in any council have warned anybody on at a night time driving around doing that, you know, their business, taxi drivers, etc., you must wear protective eyewear. Those LED street lights are lethal, absolutely lethal. The design's lethal. If they have a diffuser on, then it reduces the risk significantly. But a lot of the street lighting in Gateshead in particular, it's designed, it causes glare, and that glare catches your eye and it causes cellular stress and cancer.
As do actually a lot of the new headlights in cars. And I'm sure a lot of people will know that if a car goes over a bump, then you get that blue light yeah, flash. And that's the problem. That's the frequency that is the problem.
Pulse modulation, anything over 100 hertz, normally people can see, you can actually see flickers at less than 70 hertz. Some people can see it a little bit higher than that. But the lighting system in Gates, it's pulse modulated, and it's the pulse modulation that really makes it lethal. And what I mean by that, it's a square wave. So instead of you having a continual wave, you've got a square wave. It's a pulse modulated stop-start. And that stop-start smashes your cells to pieces. That's what makes it dangerous, because it's very, very energetic. It's not a natural emission. So that's what actually causes the issue with these pulse modulated LED streetlights. We've had councillors, the leader of Gateshead Council, Mr. Gannon, wrote to an MP of a constituent and told him that these LED streetlights in Gateshead do not pulse modulate. That was another fabrication. Who is giving these people this misinformation? Because somebody is most certainly directing these people in the council to misinform and basically lie to the constituents, because I know for a fact these councillors don't know, but somebody does, and somebody's directing them the conspiracy to stop me. Whoever's behind that, we don't know who those people are, but make no mistake about it, we have evidence to show that these councillors are being threatened, gagged, and being told not to speak about 5G. Employees being threatened not to speak about 5G. Every time you ask anybody in the council, as it will be shown in the evidence today at Moot Hall, as soon as you ask the question, who has told you that you don't have 5G, the phone is immediately put down on you. So there's two pieces of evidence today where the phone was put down on me. As soon as I asked the solicitor who told him they didn't have 5G, he said, I'm not talking about 5G. I said, well, I wouldn't expect you to know what 5G is. You're a solicitor. I want to know who has told you that you don't have 5G. He immediately put the phone down. So I wrote to him and I've asked him for his complaints procedure, because they are not obliged. These are public servants. They aren't obliged to put phones down on constituents because they asked them a hard question. The recorder, Nolan QC, had already stated I was to carry on my campaign. And that's what I'm here to do, to carry on the campaign.
So obviously we have got Gateshead Council's constitution downloaded, and we're going to be using that very much to hold them to account. But every council in the country has a constitution which is freely available if you want to go look for it. And, you know, arm yourself with the appropriate knowledge of the constitution, so that when the councillors do try to rebut you or dismiss you, or as I was discussing in my previous video this morning, use weaponized vocabulary, intellectually challenged individuals who don't have the research, the knowledge, or even the capacity for reasoned argument, they resort to weaponized vocabulary. And if they can't pull that to the fore, then they slam the phone down on you. But this is an issue that affects everywhere in the country. So, you know, what's going on in Gateshead and Newcastle Moot Hall here today is the thin end of a very, very fat wedge. And just to respond to some of the comments that have been posted while we were talking, This isn't a person's unknown injunction. This was a very specific injunction that was sought against Mark, and the initial hearing was back in October, and basically the judge threw out the application by Gateshead Council to try to gag Mark. But what the judge did put in place was an order effectively asking Mark, demanding Mark, behave himself. And basically what Gateshead Council are doing, struggling to come up with any real justification to gag him, so now they're claiming that he's been effectively in breach of the order by harassing council employees, which is a complete crock. But we shouldn't be at all surprised. I mean, this is the nature of the beast, and we can expect to see probably a lot more of this. But if you are in the northeast and you're anywhere near Newcastle in this moot hall, I tell you what, Mark, I'm getting a grand tour of court buildings in the northeast with you. I was thinking on the way up here, this is the fourth court we've been to: South Shields, Gateshead Court, Newcastle Crown Court, and now at the Moot Hall. So how many other court buildings are there in the area? Because I guess we have to add them to the.
I think we've done nearly all of them.
The grand tour.
A chap's just asked a question there about, are these the same as the LED lights in your home? No, they're not. Your LED lights in your home are in the ceiling. What I'm going to say to people, anybody who has LED street lights, make sure they don't catch your eye. And they most certainly will not have the very aggressive blue phosphor coated lights that we see on motorways, and we also see in cityscapes and townscapes in obviously the borough of Gateshead. The design, if you look at the screens, they're designed like that. They cause glare. They should have a diffuser. By law, they should have a diffuser. And any sort of light that catches your eye directly, and this light in particular is dangerous. So having lights, LED street lights in your ceiling, not a problem. And also, if you look at them, they'll have a diffuser on, and that reduces the risk significantly. I'm a technologist. I understand risk, but there's a difference between there's a risk benefit in every product that you devise, and that's how I knew the whole 5G fails any test. It isn't risk assessed because it would fail. It's never been risk assessed. The antenna design itself is from the battlefield. The high gain part, the radar part of the antenna, is very, very risky and would fail any test, any current antenna test. The dielectric lens, that's actually built to shoot a signal, a collimated signal. It's basically a weapon system, and was used in South Korea. You can go and check it out on Bloomberg, where they were shooting a wild boar in the jungle using the same technology.
Well, and by the way, I'm just going to make a comment about the LED lights in your home. I wouldn't have them.
Oh, they're not.
Period. I just wouldn't have them, and I do everything I possibly can to either ensure that I've got the halogen lights or the incandescent light bulbs. But that's a personal choice here. So, Mark, I say you're very much on point on this issue, a crucial issue. If you want to get more detail of Mark's concerns, then yesterday his AV9 presentation from the AV9 conference back in May was uploaded on the Alternative View YouTube channel. So if you've got an hour or so to spare, you can watch Mark's presentation from there. Otherwise, well, we're scheduled, I think, for, is it 4 hours today now?
I've never said. I mean, it depends how long it goes on for. The evidence we have will take a few hours.
So we'll see what happens. The likelihood is that this is going to simply be deferred, and our challenge will be to resist any attempt by Gateshead councils to put a temporary gagging order on you pending the next hearing. And if for whatever reason, we're not successful in that, then it's going to absolutely need people to step up to the plate, or be prepared to go visit Mark in jail. And don't think for one moment that these guys are going to stop, even if they don't get the result they're looking for today. They're just going to keep on stonewalling, and they are looking at setting the template for other councils to be able to stonewall the hard questions. But what is really important is that people right across the country face up to what's occurring here. Right now, it's estimated that 1 in every 2 people in the course of their life will develop some form of cancer. It's estimated that, sorry, it's 1 in 3 right now. It's estimated that by 2025, it'll be 1 in 2, and by 2050, every human life form on the planet will at some point in their life contract some form of cancer. And, you know, ask yourself the question, how many members of the royal family can you name that have died from cancer? Tough one, eh?
Tough one.
Tough one. You know, maybe it's pure coincidence. Maybe not. Anyway, we're going to head into court. There's a few people gathering here to support Mark today. And whenever it is that today's hearing finishes, we'll be outside. It's possible that Mark may have to have some duct tape across his lips. Hopefully that's not the case.
I'd like to just say one thing, Ian. 5G is an existential threat. Make no mistake about it. I was talking to some people in the US, some military people in the US a couple of weeks ago about people going underground. I'm going to say this to everybody. Would you go underground with the psychopaths who want to wipe out humanity? Because I wouldn't.
It's an interesting thought. Okay, you guys have a great day. We're going to have a very interesting day, and we'll update you later on once we come out of the court. Okay, take care now. Thanks, Mark.